You need to take a breath. You are you're snowballing into the podcast.
All right.
We are fine. This is a safe space.
Don't worry. It's like old friends having tea, you know?
Wow. There you go.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Two Texas Teas podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Rocío Guenther, and I just want to let you all know we are really good friends. Well, I'll let her introduce herself, but let's get into the interview or conversation, as I say. So, Rocío, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. My voice sounds a little raspy, so it'll be like a raspy style podcast. My voice is usually not this way, but I lost it on Friday, and probably going to the feria in the south of Spain, which is amazing. Didn't help either. I stayed up late, had a party. It was great. I dressed up. We, even danced a little bit of sevillanas.
Love it.
So yeah, wonderful experience, but I lost my voice.
No. So for those who do not know, we have a lot of people who listen to the podcast in San Antonio. So I would like to say that personally, I find you to be very famous in San Antonio. I can't go around with the people who be asking, well, how's Rocío doing? I was like, why are you asking me? Like, I can reach out to her. But for those who do not know you, introduce yourself to the audience. Your worst food. The movie that you don't like the most. I don't know. You can go from there.
Sure. Yeah. I'll keep it short, but I guess I always start with like where I come from and where I am, because it's a journey. I think the question, where are you from, is complicated for me just because my name it's very Spanish, right? Rocío. My last name is Guenther. It's Gunther. In Germany, it's German, and so my name in itself is like diverse because it's a weird mix. And then my second last name is very Spanish, which is Collado, double L. So I was born and raised in Guadalajara, Mexico, grew up there, spent most of my life, but I went to bilingual schools my whole life, and I always had dual nationality since I can remember, thanks to my dad because he was born in Ohio. But he also spent the rest of his life in Mexico, and his mom is Mexican. So kind of neither here nor there. Ni de aquí ni de allá, as we say. I know that's like a common sentiment that a lot of people in Texas, especially in San Antonio, they feel that and they identify with that because, we have a population that's 60% Hispanic. A lot of people speak Spanish. And we're so close to Mexico anyway, right? And I think a lot of locals like to say, the border crossed us and we've always been here, especially Latinos, families that have been there for generations. I love when people kind of explain it that way, And so, yeah, for me, I think I've always kind of found myself in between those two worlds because even though I grew up in Guadalajara, I did spend a brief time, I think it was like a year and a half when I was a kid, living in San Antonio because my dad worked for what was the Free Trade Alliance at the time that later evolved into Greater SATX, which is basically the arm that promotes San Antonio, and it's all about investment, trade. So my dad briefly worked there when I was a kid, but it was very short-lived. However, I always knew I wanted to go back to Texas, especially for college. I wanted to study English literature. So it doesn't really make sense to stay in Mexico if you want to study English literature. So that's actually what I majored in, which a lot of people don't know. And then I did minor in political science, which makes more sense once I talk about where I ended up. But started as a journalist after I graduated from Trinity University. But I did serve as an intern for Congressman Joaquin Castro in his district office when I was a student. So that experience really marked me when it comes to like constituent services. And I never thought that it would relate to the future, but it ended up being that way. After I left journalism, I joined the city of San Antonio and worked in international relations. So kind of fostering sister city relationships. And then I transitioned over to the mayor's office where I did constituent services and community engagement for Mayor Ron Nirenberg, who will most likely be our next county judge. He won the Democratic nomination, but, we still have that final leg of the race to confirm it. That's just a little bit about me and my connection to San Antonio. So I've spent more than a decade in San Antonio now, but in January, I moved to Madrid, Spain.
Hey everyone, thank you for coming to our ad break. This is for all the folks that would love to be a part of our Two Texas Tea podcast in a way such as sponsoring. So if you are interested in wanting to be a part of the podcast and share your information about your business or what you're doing, you can always send us your inquiry or your interest by going to emailing us on our email address right here below, or following us on social media and sending us a message, or checking out our website. So we hope to hear from you soon, and we would love to be able to showcase what you're doing.
No, that's a weird. I just want to make sure there's no delay, so we'll cut these little
I
parts
skipped the
out.
part
But
where I lived in Germany, but we can get there. I lived in our sister city in Darmstadt.
I was gonna say after you left the mayor's office, you've been traveling, and I think that experience has also been really pivotal to I think starting in San Antonio and how you then went from San Antonio, then you went to Germany. You were here for a blip, a moment,
Yeah,
and then you went
like a
back.
year.
Then you went to Spain, and it's been awesome to be like a cheerleader on your journey,
Thank you.
and to just kind of see just all the opportunities that you have trailblazed for yourself. So I think that two Texas Tea listeners are, what is it? We have a Sip Senate. They should be honored to have you on this week's episode, because I know that your perspective is going to be it's going to be unique to kind of seeing what goes on behind the curtain. For our background, Rocío and I were at City Hall at the same time
We
during the
were.
pandemic. And so it's been really cool just to kind of see how all of us are all intertwined in one way or another. We are trauma bonded from
Oh
the
my gosh,
public
forever.
side. Yes, it is. It is such a sisterhood to be in City Hall during that time. And just to kind of see just like how that also shaped what your perspectives were when you went abroad and are, now traveling to different countries, and how San Antonio, I always tell Dawn, I'm like, you can get as far away from San Antonio as you want to, and somehow it will pull you back, even if it's just for a hot minute.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You can't
I
leave.
agree with that. It always, yeah,
Yes.
you end up coming back. Yeah, there's something about it. Man, how do I even verbalize this? Maybe you can verbalize it better for me, Lawson. But I mean, people are so warm. I feel like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, it's not just, oh, it's Southern US, but it's also, I think, that Latinidad too that we
Mhm.
have. That makes me feel a little bit like home too because of that Mexican side. There's that mix, I think. And, we're a big city, but it feels like a small town. And so I feel like if you want to have an impact, there's a roadmap versus a really
Mhm.
big city. I don't know, like New York.
Mhm.
See, yeah, you can have an impact, but it's not an easy road. And I feel like it's a bit more cutthroat. Whereas I feel like people in San Antonio, we help each other out a little bit more, There's some camaraderie there, you know?
I'd like to ask you, because you mentioned having moved here to San Antonio and how San Antonio is really welcoming. One of the things that Dawn and I talk about on this podcast, and in particular to the characteristics of San Antonio,
Mhm.
is there are fundamentals to being a born and raised San Antonian and being a transplant San Antonian. And how, like, the first question that always gets brought up is, what high school did you go to?
Yeah.
And kind of like what was your experience just immersing yourself into the San Antonio community? Did you
You,
have any road bumps? Did you ever feel like, oh, like there's always going to be that mark of I'm not from here? Because I know, like, having had run for office, that was one of the biggest things, was like, but you're not from here, so you don't get it. And I'm like, but no, but I'm from a small town with caliche roads. Like, I deal
yeah.
with the same type of like disparities as you guys do, except it's even worse because
Yeah.
in order to get to an HEB, we have to drive 10 miles, like, to get to groceries. So, like, I get it, but it's always one of those things. It's like, yeah, but you didn't go to school here. I'm like, but I went to college here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, especially I feel like that's one reason why I was like, I don't think I would run because I would get that question. And I mean, some people would bring it up with Ron Nirenberg sometimes because I would answer all the
Yeah.
constituent services stuff. And they're like, oh, but he's an Austinite because he was born in
Yeah.
Austin. And it's like, how much should that really matter? I don't know.
Literally. Right. Yeah. Because like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron's made such a great signature for himself here. Like, he
Yeah.
is a San Antonian. Yeah.
Of course. And so, I mean, that's a hard question because I feel like so many people are from a certain place, but where they go to college really marks them.
Mm-hmm.
And that
That's
was
what
my
I say
experience,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I went to Trinity, so if I had come from a random university outside of Texas or outside of San Antonio suddenly to relocate to San Antonio, I think it would have been different. But I think because I went to Trinity, and Trinity is so ingrained in San Antonio, its impact, there's also some privilege there, right? It's a private university, it's not cheap. Those student loans, man, it took a while
Yeah.
to pay them. But, I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Trinity network is very helpful. And there's a lot of people, at least in the political side. I mean, our city manager went to Trinity.
Right.
Ron went to Trinity. Manny Peláez went to Trinity. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
so many people I think that have had maybe an impact in local gov that have a Trinity connection. So I think definitely like going there was a launch pad for me. And I never kind of had that bumpy road of like, oh, but where did you go to high school? It was like, once I said Trinity, it was like, oh, wow, cool.
Yeah.
Like, with the college university. Maybe it's the same with UTSA, like, oh, go runners, I don't know. I did my master's there, and that also was cool because their MPA program is very famous because a lot of the admin and leadership have taken that MPA program, the Master's in Public Administration. I believe Lori Houston, like a few people that,
Yeah.
I think no, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if Maria Villagomez, our assistant city manager, maybe she went to St. Mary's. I don't know. But, I think those were doors that kind of made it easier for me versus like, oh, I came here to work at USAA from a different city or, a different place. But in a political context, like if you're running for office, I'm sure that would come up.
Yeah,
more.
it did. And it's funny. So I'm representing UIW as a UIW grad. You're a Trinity grad. Don over there was St. Mary's. Like,
St.
it's
Mary's.
so funny that like all three of us, we're all private school. Yes, let me tell you, those student loans are crazy. Funny enough, though, the interest rate and the amount owed on my private student loans versus my public because I started off my freshman year at Texas A&M Kingsville.
Okay.
That one, actually, I have more money, like, based on like percentages, like allocated to loans for my public school than I do my private school. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt anymore or any less, but like, yeah, like it wasn't cheap. But I think also having gone to school like in like midtown, like in the center, in the heart of like such growth, and especially at the time that I was at school, it's so fundamental to like everything. I was going to school at Incarnate Word and then worked at a running store at the Pearl before the Pearl was a Pearl. Like it was still like tumbleweeds, like nobody was doing anything there. So I always like that's like my San Antonio story. Like back in my day, like the Pearl wasn't even here yet, and they were like the Alamo Chambers was like doing petitions to try to slow down the development at the Pearl because they didn't want. And I remember quoting this is a quote. They did not want man buns and jandals walking around in their neighborhoods. And just to see like how it is now, and I'm like, they are now embracing the man buns and jandals and the younger families and the dogs. Yeah,
the tables have turned.
How they have turned, right? But it is so crazy because like having had the experience at UIW and being able to get a lot more of that exposure to like just kind of how like the center city's grown and like and Midtown has grown in San Antonio it definitely does shape you and you establish some relationships a lot through university and your experiences there. And I do think that also did help give me an impact on my experience as well. But yeah, politics in San Antonio.
People ask it. You're right. Like
born and raised.
Oh, are you from here or not? Even though maybe you've been there a decade or went to school there. Like I think, if you've been there
15 years living here
or more, you're local. Like, if people want to disagree with me and fight me on that, have at it. But I think after spending a certain time or spending a very pivotal part of your life, like college or anything else, I mean, I say y'all all the time. Was I raised in Texas? No, but like it just comes out, Yeah. I said it the other day at the office here with a colleague, and I was like, oh my gosh, my Texan came out of me. It's just there now, the y'all and this and that. But yeah, like talking about campaign season, during campaign season when you were running Lawson and also the mayoral race, I saw that come up all the time because I helped Beto Altamirano for his mayoral campaign. He hired me to help him kind of the last few months with events and different things. It was a great experience.
Yeah, because we ran into each other at different polling locations.
We saw each other. That's right. Yeah, it's grueling out there. And I would see all the time, the person that won, John Jay High School, this and that. A lot of people based their vote on that.
That was so big.
That
literally, so two of the candidates that I ran, no, actually, mentiras, all of them. It was, I was born and raised here and now I'm on the school board, or I'm a John Jay grad, like we need the John Jay sass back in City Hall. Like it was so weird that people were like, oh, you went to high school here? Okay, you have my vote. I'm like, well, what the hell? And then and then that's where I was like using my kid. I'm like, my kid goes to school here. Yeah, like my kid is going to have a high school here. Like because it just becomes like one of these like, oh, but you didn't go to high school here. I'm like, but I chose San Antonio. I didn't just stay here because I had no other option. Like I'm choosing this to be my home and I'm choosing to protect my home.
talking point too with
Yeah.
Beto. I chose
Oh,
why
Beto
I
and I used to
chose
have like
San
tangents. Like,
Antonio.
yes, we used
Yeah.
to talk about this all the time. It's like we are choosing to make this home. We are choosing to make sure that the home that we have, I think that it's like we've invested our time here. Like we looked at our options for what's the city that we're going to make our place to be home. We're investing now to be here in San Antonio. And people, I don't think they see it that way because oh, those are my dogs and there's probably somebody walking their dog. They don't see it that way. They see it as like, oh no, you're going to take my city and make it something that it's not. And it's like, well, no, you haven't even asked me where I'm from. Like, I think that was
Yeah.
the other thing. They thought like, oh, you're just probably from Austin or Houston or like this other big major city. And it's
Yeah.
like, actually, no, I'm from like a rural town where like I was an FFA sweetheart. Like we wore it's a very small town. Like that's why I liked San Antonio because to your point, right? Like I always make the joke that like you can't go to any HEB on any side of town without expecting to run into somebody. Like don't go all like tattered up or anything because you're gonna run into somebody. And and that's what I loved about it. I love that like
Yeah.
we are so protective of wanting to keep that community aspect together, but I also feel like it's been a detriment to like the growth of San Antonio because we're not allowing any outside perspectives to really come in, which is what I think was like what a success was for San Antonio was when Ron did come in and give that outside perspective, right? Because he had a lived experience that did not start in San Antonio, so he knew what it looked like to live in a more progressed city. Because like Austin, I mean, Austin went from being like very like hippie, kind of like, you know, eclectic to, but still successful to like now this more like, I think it's commercialized almost too close. So we went from one extreme to the next, but like it's grown. And I think that he saw like an opportunity to be like, hey, like, why can't we do that also? So I'm excited for him at the county because I think the county and him and I have talked about this. It's like the wild, wild west. I'm excited to see what he does there and how he can bring some of that same structure that he had and decorum, right? Like I think that it's lacking at the county. But I think that like San Antonio needs to be more, we need to celebrate diversity and people wanting to like really invest in San Antonio locally on the public side like we do with the private side. Like everybody's always gung-ho when the new company comes in from XYZ country, right? But like what about the people and where they're coming from? Because I think that Beto had such great, he was ambitious and he was hungry. And I think that would have been a great type of charisma to have at City Hall.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, not to like put him on a pedestal,
No,
but it's
we don't do that with politicians.
It's like, yeah, okay, he lost the election, but it's not like he stopped his community engagement. You know, like
no,
because people are like, oh, is this a stepping stone for this and that? I mean, he's now running Tech Block, he's doing events, like he's just trying to make an impact, you know. So it's like finding people that no matter the job description, no matter like the role, like you know that they want to serve, they want to make an impact. And if they can do it in multiple ways and still kind of do it after a defeat like that, I think that's super commendable.
100%.
You know, like, you know, you learn from your losses too. I'm sure you have a lot of lessons learned you can share with us, Lawson, about like experiencing the campaign and what you learned. But what you mentioned about the whole outsider thing, like, are you from here? Or like, did you go to high school here? It's like, I'm curious if it's like that in other cities when people run this on the local level, or if it's just
It's
us,
not.
or if it's just San Antonio. So that's an interesting thing to bring to the table because I don't know.
I've talked to some folks.
So just out of just for some, I guess, brevity, I've never been asked what high school I went to. People always assumed I was from San Antonio until I had to explain it. I'm not joking. One of the funny things, I guess, in relation to the story is, I mean, it's the politics connection. So you mentioned that when you were, I mean, in 2020, when I happened to be in, I guess, another city, Austin, and then we were all going. Well, actually, I mean, through 2020, we were all together and going through the COVID year, but I was in the federal government, so our response was kind of just like, well, it is what it is. But I do remember us having a lot of conversations, and one of our, I guess, I personally, the most fun event that we did was the adult water gun fight because that was hilarious.
Yes.
But you know what? All
we
of
have
us
to share that photo.
We do. I mean, all of us have kind of gone on and do like really amazing things since then. And then one of us is a city council person now. So it's so funny how like that little group just kind of exploded and went on to do great things. But between that and where we are now, Rosa, you've kind of traveled a lot. What are you kind of doing right now as far as a professional and maybe a hobby or something?
But I was a consultant all last year. Like I helped Beto in his campaign, but at the same time I formed an LLC because I've always done side gigs. Like I've always done translation work or events or comms. And I'm like, man, I'm always doing these side gigs. Like maybe I could do this for a little while, or I don't know, figure out a way to market my skills. So, I invested in a website and formed my LLC, Guerita Consulting LLC.
Mm-hmm.
And I mainly focused, helping Beto with the campaign. But then I also helped the nonprofit Better Futures Institute, which Beto co-founded with Beto Gomez and Eduardo, who all run Iris as well. It's kind of their nonprofit arm. It's kind of like a little think tank they have going, but they have these awesome scholarships for students where they kind of give them real world experience over the summer. They have paid internships. They work with AI. They work on workforce development. They work on different things to basically see how they can contribute to San Antonio, in the public sector, nonprofit sector, and beyond. And so I helped them with a big event last summer it was a workshop and a policy lab called Workforce of the Future. So that was amazing because we brought students from different universities that were here for Students Plus Startups. And I helped create a whole program where we had people talk about workforce development in San Antonio. And we did a workshop where people kind of mapped out, quality of life and what they look for as young people in a city where they want to stay and work and live and play, right? And it was a way to also pitch San Antonio. We didn't sell it that way, but it's also like, look, we want to invite all these guests to tell you about the amazing things that are going on in the city so that maybe you can consider staying here, to make an impact here, rather than dreaming of going elsewhere. So, there's a bit of like talent retention there through that exercise too, that, is obviously our intention and our hope. And then, I helped a lot of other nonprofits, like with events. I didn't really want to market myself as an event planner, but I kept getting hired to help with events for some reason. So I guess I'm good. So I did that for a while. And then, I'll be honest. I took a risk. I didn't want to get too political, but look, the person that I wanted to win the presidential election didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
And that really hit me pretty hard because I honestly, when I came back from Germany after doing a fellowship abroad, my goal was to maybe go to DC and try to like gain impact there after so many years at the local level. But when that didn't happen, I was just feeling a little bit stuck of like career growth. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I already worked at the mayor's office. I'm not going to go work for Governor Abbott. So like, what's next?
Yeah.
So I was like trying to think of leaving Texas for a while, but then I decided against it. And I was like, well, I've always wanted to go to Spain. I was in Europe. I didn't miss Germany, but I missed being in Europe, and I have family in Spain. And this past summer, I was able to recover my Spanish citizenship because my mother's grandparents were from Spain and they escaped for many different reasons. And so recently the government passed a law to give you a mechanism to gain it back if you have family that, left for political reasons, different things. Most people, if you've read history books, there was a dictator for a long time, Franco.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people escaped and a lot of them went to Latin America, a lot of Spaniards. So my family's part of that story, right? So, I've always been interested in like migration.
Mm-hmm.
And I studied that a little bit when I was in Germany. My whole research project abroad was looking at how cities grapple with the influx of migrants and refugees. I looked at what they were doing locally in Germany, our sister city in Darmstadt, and I compared that, a little comparative analysis with what was going on in San Antonio with our migrant resource center and everything. There's so many differences, but there's so many things that connect us too. It's a global issue that a lot of local governments are grappling with. It's very political. We see a rise in far-right parties. We see a rise in anti-migrant sentiment. So I kind of studied that for a year. I kind of went back to my journalism roots in a way, and that was it for a year and a half, a journalism project about that. And so, I'm not doing that in Spain. I just came with all my savings and I booked a flight. It's the most reckless thing I've done. When I went to Germany, I had like an income way.
I love
This is the first time where I was like, I'm just going out to the middle of nowhere. Like, I'm just throwing myself out there. So I rented this place that I'm in now. And I arrived mid-January and I fixed some paperwork stuff to get my ID card, different things to kind of have all my local papers in order and my social security number so I can work because I have the citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started applying to jobs like in March, and then end of April I was hired. It's a Swiss company. It's called Frontiers. They do open science. They publish over 200 scientific journals, and I'm just helping with the publication process. So it's like very random. It has nothing to do with like journalism or like my political and government experience, but we'll see. I'm enjoying it. The benefits are great. 2 days remote, 3 in person. It pays well. But I think eventually you'll find me back somehow in like government
Always.
relations or international affairs. I see it
Always.
already, So for now, that's what I'm doing. But
Y'all
yeah.
heard it here. The next mayor, and I'm joking. I don't want to put you.
Well, no, here's the reason why I'm not doing government and politics in Spain. Here, it doesn't matter if you have a degree in this or if you have an MPA, which is what I have, Master's in Public Administration. I have great experience. But here, you cannot even work as a low-level administrator at any level of government unless you take tests. So it's like a way to democratize the system.
I
So
mean,
you have to
but
pass
we've
tests.
also seen what happens when people don't even know what the Magna Carta is at the presidential level, right? I know
Right.
that I think that
It's a
it was
Jay-Z album. We all know
Melissa.
this.
Shut up. I think it was Melissa Cabello Haverda that when she was running for mayor also, she had mentioned like maybe there needs to be some type of like screening process to like, do you
Yeah, I
even
mean,
know what like the basics of City Hall are?
honestly, I
think
agree.
I agree. And I agree that like there should be some type of like clearance to this
Yeah.
only because like I don't think that they realize like San Antonio is not a mayor strong city. It is a mayor manager like city. And in fact, like I will say, like having seen how the sausage is made, the city manager has quite a bit more authority in
He's
this
like the
than
CEO of the company, and the mayor and the council are like the board.
it takes. There's a body of 11 elected officials up there, and it takes 6 votes to get anything done. And that's what I used to tell people when there was so much like there's always a lot of focus on like who our next mayor is going to be, right? Because they're going to be the face of the city. I get it, but I kept telling people when I was running, you realize you're going to need 6 votes to get your whatever
you need consensus.
like you need 6 people to agree with you on this. Are you sure you're going to have it?
Like, you can't be alone.
Right. The private side and the business community was so honed in on one other candidate, right? And we saw that. And then it did not bode well for them, but there was so much funding that they were funneling towards one mayoral candidate when in reality, like they should have been looking at it as a full body.
Yeah.
Marina, I always say District 7 councilwoman, like she's become like let me tell you who's really in charge of the ship now kind of thing, because she's been able to really lobby consensus for the votes that she needs for the like whatever project, regardless if I agree with all of them or not, whatever she wants to get done, she has shown that she can get the 6 votes to get it done. It has really shown that like the mayor is just one of 11. And I hope that this has shown the private community and those that want to start funding, whether it's a PAC or a fucking rich person that wants to just develop here, whatever an individual, like I don't care who it is. I hope they're seeing that they should really be more intentional and strategic with how they are funding or identifying the key players that they want to see elected.
Right.
Because
And
they
we're
didn't
also
do that.
nonpartisan, which other
Like, let's
cities
say
don't.
that again,
They do.
Rocio, because I don't think that people understood that at all. Like I got
No,
somebody was like,
it
well,
became
what
a
are
partisan
you?
race.
It became 100% a partisan race. And I was going door to door, and I remember this one lady, because I was with my cousin when we were block walking, and she's like, well, what are you? And I was like, well, this is a nonpartisan seat, so this is whatever. She's like, so that means you're a Republican, because that's what that means. You can go fuck yourself, and slammed the door on me. And I was like, actually, I worked with the Biden administration, and I ran as but it was just one of those. It's like, what are you talking like? But I tried really hard to say I'm here for nonpartisan issues like street maintenance and safety should not be a partisan issue at this level, right? But people made it a partisan race. And I think also like
And the funding also.
Yeah, yes.
partisan.
And it was so partisan. And it became, obviously we were on the coattails of the presidential race, did not also help our situation. But there was no strategy, like no long game strategy. Because it was like, okay, that one, like you want to do it this way, then tell me how this is going to work out for you when you have a bunch of people that said, fuck you, fuck your money, like fuck your idea, because we're going to do it our way. Like, how is this going to bode well for you? And it has made a lot of policy moves more difficult. And I think that lobbyists and the private side has had to learn how to work a little harder than just dropping a $500 donation into some of these people's accounts. And I'm glad to see that it's just like, oh, you actually have to work for it. You can't just buy your way into getting a policy done. But I just think that there was no strategy when it came to the local race, especially in a very like Bear County is blue. Like we are not like a light blue, we are a navy blue. Yeah. And there was just no thought Like, I think they were just like, oh, we're going to get our way. Don't worry about it. And it's like, okay, try. Let me
Yeah.
know how that works out for
I
you.
mean, and she is
It's been
trying.
tough.
I mean, one day the rest of the council will see the light, and then she's like, they're gonna follow me eventually. That's. I mean, I can see the strategy behind it. Just keep planting the flag, and then eventually they'll follow the way.
Yeah.
But they got 4 years to figure it out now. So we're only 1 year down. We got 3 years to go, 3.5 years now to go. So it's just, you can make your mistakes the first few years. I mean, even the president of the United States, when they first take over, the first year is kind of like setting all these goals and passing all these laws,
Yeah.
but the effects of them are not felt until a few years. I'm playing devil's advocate on the show, so I'm always like, well, she's trying. Kind of.
We'll say,
Go ahead.
I like her strategy positions. Like, I don't think she's wrong in wanting to get certain things done. Like, I don't think that she's wrong at all. I think the way that she's gone about it could be more
Right.
graceful.
The key policy initiatives, I think it's important for the vision, and you need to sell that vision, and the other council members need to like jump on that ship to
Right.
support it, and not everyone will, right? But a majority. But you also need to give them leeway to have like some impactful projects and get behind it too, and give them credit
Mhm.
for it, no matter what that is. If it's, I don't know, funding for more streets and sidewalks, for example, it reminds me of
Mhm.
previous elected official Lawson that you worked for. The whole like sidewalk. There's certain council members that want to take on certain issues, or they want to come up with ideas so that they can have like their signature footprint,
Yeah.
their years in office. And so I think it's important to give them that chance too. And then, that also gives everyone more consensus. It feels like they can
For
also have
sure.
the impact, not just the mayor. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but hey.
And let's talk about that, because both of us worked. So you worked for the mayor's office. I worked for District 1. Our bosses, it was publicly known, they did not like each other.
Yeah, I know.
They did not like each other. And I could tell it was like vinegar on their tongue anytime they had to thank each other on the dais. Like, this is not breaking news, so I can say it. Like, I mean, they did not like each other. But they both knew that they can brawl it out behind closed doors. As soon as that door opened, there was a unified front between both of them, and the entire council to get something done. Did either of them have the I want to be the guy kind of attitude? 100%. They both had their egos and they both had their issues. I mean, neither of them were perfect. But I think that to that point, you did see Ron allow for the under one roof program that, council District 1 had really spearheaded to allow that to be the spotlight. You did see the sidewalk improvement program, he championed, he got behind that as well. And I think that if there is a me mentality that roots and takes advantage of the situation, then you're never going to get anything done. You have to know what the strengths and weaknesses are of each of your council members in order to say okay, let's tweak this, or let me get some of my staff to help your staff to really develop this policy better, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, having our experiences, having seen it up close and what conflict can look like behind closed doors, but they go up and they thanked each other. And especially during the pandemic, can you imagine if we had this type of leadership today, 6 years ago?
And I think maybe your role was different because, correct me, you did comms, right?
Comms and policy.
Okay. So I think also, I never did that, right? I was always doing the constituent services side. So it's interesting because, yes, of course, I knew everything going on all the time. But I just was doing constituent services, and I just was being responsive to residents and, just directing them to the right place. And so, no matter if I'm working for District 1, 2, 3, or the mayor, it's that job is the same for every office. And it's just about, I had to work together. And maybe that's not how it works, with other roles. But for mine, I had to work together with multiple offices that did what I did just to resolve stuff, simple city services things. And I'd be like, hey, someone called about this, does your office know? Can we work together to solve it? Because they escalated it to us or whatnot.
Right.
So I think that also gave me a more unique viewpoint because I didn't get into the tensions that sometimes were happening on the days. Because I just was problem solving city issues and working across offices. And since it wasn't policy battles or anything like that, I personally feel I had very good relationships in my role with everyone that did the same in other offices because I had to talk to them all the time. And I'm not saying it's not political, but because I would get all kinds of calls. But it's more about just listening and helping people regardless of the elected. You're just problem solving. So I think maybe that's why, I can't speak so much to the other stuff with, because of my role that I had. But of course I was aware of everything.
For sure. I mean, and you and I work together a lot on different constituent issues because so when you're in, and I don't know how it was for you all at the mayor's office, but like every district office, we were, regardless of what your role was, whether you were chief of staff or you were community engagement constituent services, you were responsible for so many neighborhood associations or HOAs. And so and one of the biggest ones in District 1 when I was there and still is Delview. And Delview loved to escalate to the mayor's office and escalate to the commissioner's office and loved to bring everybody in because they thought that there was not enough being done. And that is a whole other Pandora's box. But like I think that they to your point, like you have to be able to work with your council office to say, hey, and especially in your role, like what's the background here before I respond, or how can I help the mayor's office does end up kind of playing like a mitigation team of trying to help to iron out and sort things out and give back the power to the council office so they can take care of that, because there are bigger, higher level issues that the mayor should be focused on, not whether or not the sidewalks are being done.
It's a hard balance between taking complete ownership because you get stuff from all over the city versus letting the district office handle it, but I think it's just about communication and asking the district office, how can I help? Or how can we help if you're already handling this?
Sure.
Is there anything we can do, to help you? Or, I don't know, set up a meeting with a department head or whatnot. But I'm curious, Don, because you've had experiences, working as well behind the scenes. What do you think about, I guess, competency, right? I know we kind of veered off and started talking about current affairs in San Antonio. But I know that, like I said, here people have to pass tests. There's people that study for a year just to pass basic knowledge, just to work at any government office. So yeah, it's interesting that we don't have that in the US. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know you have a background working with, in Congress for a Congress rep and also in the district offices in San Antonio, federal level stuff.
Hey everyone, thank you for coming to our ad break. This is for all the folks that would love to be a part of our Two Texas Tea podcast in a way such as sponsoring. So if you are interested in wanting to be a part of the podcast and share your information about your business or what you're doing, you can always send us your inquiry or your interest by going to emailing us on our email address right here below, or following us on social media and sending us a message, or checking out our website. So we hope to hear from you soon, and we would love to be able to showcase what you're doing.
From my perspective, so I worked in District 3, and the South Side is the best side, as I will always say. And then my first job was director of policy or policy. We didn't really, and the councilwoman didn't really believe in that position. So I was a policy advisor. And then pretty halfway through, I switched to special projects. So I think I had a really good understanding on how things were going on in City Hall, even though I was very new. So what you're doing right now, picking up all your things and moving to Spain, is exactly how I got to San Antonio. One day I just flipped the desk. Actually, for those who do not know, I actually had two jobs at the same time. One job was in Miami, Florida, and the other one was in San Antonio. And I had to make a decision on which one I was going to do.
Crazy.
I know, and I chose San Antonio.
Imagine if you had chosen Miami.
This podcast,
your podcast co-host would be another different type of crazy Latina. You would have still had a Latina crazy woman as your co-host, but it would have been a different type of Latina.
Hey, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Miami is an amazing city. But I do for what everyone's been saying is San Antonio is definitely a bit surprising from my perspective. I think Rocío and I's first time ever meeting was at Coronation, so back in the day. So we've been friends for almost 7-8 years now. But understanding how the sausage is made behind the scene, being a policy advisor, but not really understanding anything about San Antonio was a very interesting experience. Going from that to special projects is basically you as a special projects manager is you're the catch-all for everything that needs to be done in the district. So people come to you and hey, we have this problem. You need to come up with some sort of initiative or some sort of event or something we can do to kind of resolve this, or tell people in the community that we're doing it. And through doing all that, I got to, and then another unique thing is that Councilwoman Villegran did not have a chief of staff for a long part of the time. So it was hey, Don, do you want to go to the chief of staff meetings? I was oh, absolutely. So I also, another anecdote is that I made the mistake of telling them when I first started that I wanted to go to as many meetings as possible. And that meant everybody got real quiet.
Big mistake.
They're okay. And they sent me to every department head meeting, every chief of staff meeting, everything that was going on. And I got that feel for like how things are done. So the idea that
Yeah.
the current mayor is like more so of a congressional Washington D.C. style of like leadership, where I'm going to make this an issue and everyone's going to follow me. I saw behind the scene it was more so like, hey, you need 6 votes. I understood then that the city manager at that time, Cheryl Scully, was incredibly powerful and is basically saying like you had to convince her if you really wanted to do something. And then
Yeah.
you kind of got you an understanding of like, all right, this is how things are going. So when you both joined City Hall, I moved to Congress, and that was just completely different because now I'm the district
you
rep
had
for
both
like
experiences.
500,000 people in 5 counties, and I've always said that I went into that position a little bit wrong. I thought that I was going to be just another council aide, but instead you're more so like a miniature congressman. Like you just need to show up at places and tell people that you're listening and try to help out when you can. But the team in DC is the one that's really doing it. And then you're part of a board too. Like the one member of Congress can't really do much. But the committees
DC office and district office so different.
Exactly. And Heard was on the appropriations committee. So that also gave us a lot of power for stuff. So a lot of my job was going around asking people what did they want. And I think one of the big meetings that I planned was the appropriations meeting, where I just basically go to the mayor in all these cities and say, okay, these are all the things what are your priorities? What should we do? And we go from there. So, I mean, I understand what this current mayor is trying to do. Like, we see all the news stories. I mean, it would be interesting to get her perspective of what's going on. I mean, Congressman Heard and her
maybe you
ran
need to
against
invite
each
her
other.
to the podcast. You know?
I'd be happily
Let's
invited.
do it.
I'll reach out to her. I mean, voted for her, so but it's more so like it's interesting. Like each mayor has their own flair on how they want to do things, and I would assume as being a mayor that you would want to get as many people together as possible to pass things, and you let people get your wins, as you were all saying, and then you kind of like piecemeal put together things, and then throughout the course of like a year or two that you're there, now 4 years, you say, look at all the wins that the council and I have done together. And that's kind of like how your bread and butter goes. But to finish on the final question, so this is a more international focus of things. So you have done a lot of work in San Antonio. You lived here for a lot of your life, but you're international now. So when you tell people that you're from San Antonio, do people hit you with a whole bunch of stereotypes? Like when I tell people I'm from San Antonio, and they either say, this is very bad, where's that? Or is it, how close is it to Houston? Or how
do y'all ride horses?
Do you guys? I had that idea. I'm not even international. But so how are people's perspective of San Antonio internationally?
Well, it depends where you go, because I think the perspectives that I've gotten are folks that are quite informed, you know? Like when I was in Germany, I went to our sister city in Darmstadt. So like there's a close relationship. So, I mean, we had a delegation of Germans that came to visit. I mean, part of King William and huge parts of Texas. I mean, think New Braunfels, Fredericksburg, and especially the King William area. I mean, it was founded by German immigrants, or they had a huge impact. I mean, at some point, there were even newspapers in German, you know, back in the day. That doesn't exist anymore. But I mean, just look at the name of our streets and the name of certain cities, towns in Texas. You see the influence.
It's a weird amalgamation of cultures.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I think there's like that cultural influence, right, from the past in our history in San Antonio. You know, I think there's a reason why everyone says, oh, San Antonio, confluence of cultures. You know, I think it's so unique because, you know, Texas, there were, you know, native peoples that were living there years before, you know, the first ayuntamiento government was formed, right? So I think it's important to mention that. But the start of the official like government structure, right, it came from the Spanish. It was Canary Island families that founded the formal government, you know, and then eventually, right, you know, Texas also was part of Mexico, then it was independent, then it joined, you know, US. And so I think Texas is so unique because it's been through so many different identities, you know, in a way. And San Antonio has kind of been in the middle of all that. But, you know, again, where I lived, people are very aware about San Antonio, the Spurs, and I mean, a lot of people know the Spurs. That's like the first thing that people probably identify, you know, and we're doing super well, you know, currently. So let's hope that, you know, we make it. Everyone's excited about Wendy.
It's funny. Do you get, so anytime I would work with people like from other countries, or I'd go to a different country and they're like, oh, where are you from? I'm from San Antonio. And they're like, oh, it's really hot, right? Right now it's like super hot. Even like when I'd be like in like Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, like deep South Mexico, and they're like, oh, it's like 100 degrees over there, right? And I'm like, I am perspiring through my shirt here. But yes, it is like the pits of hell in San Antonio too. Like everybody always comments on how hot it is in Texas or in San Antonio. Whenever I talk to anybody like internationally, like, do you get like the like, oh yeah, like you're used to like the heat, right? Do you ever get people like that are like the first thing is like climate based? Because I get a lot of like,
Honestly, the first thing, even though I say San Antonio, because I say San Antonio, Texas, or I say Texas
mm-hmm.
first, the main reaction is like, oh, guns and like
Yeah.
Oh, that's
conservative.
unfortunate. Yeah.
Like that's what people think abroad. Like because we have a very local perspective, but people abroad think more of like regions or states.
Mhm.
They don't maybe know the nuances between cities, you know?
I mean, I
And so
think
what
that's the same with anybody, right? Like,
yeah. So
did
it's
you? I don't know if you saw the thing where it was just like there was the whole situation with like Mexico, and they're like, Mexico's a whole country. Like, let's break it down
yeah.
by regions or whatever. Like, but people don't have that type of like scopic perspective initially. So I get that.
Unless they've visited or we have an
Correct.
official like relationship there and people
Yeah.
know or they've traveled there. But people think more like Texas context. And that's when I think I would explain like, oh, our cities tend to be blue, you know, it's
Mhm.
different. You know, and our urban centers are not like the rural areas, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Spurs definitely just like people react about the gun thing and politics, but more San Antonio, I think it's people that maybe have visited or, oh, the Riverwalk. But I think the Spurs are like a huge identity because we've had so many international players,
Yeah.
throughout the years. I think that's also something that is so unique. There's other
You
teams that maybe don't have so many international players.
That's a good point. How
So,
like
we've
people don't
had,
think of the Spurs as like an international influence and impact on how people are educated on San Antonio. Like that's a really good point, Rocio.
I mean, even Gasol, he was Spanish, right? I mean, I'm in Spain. Like, people might know who Gasol is here, and that's why
Yeah.
maybe they know the Spurs. Or Argentina, Manu Ginobili. Or,
Mhm.
France with Wemby and Tony Parker.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool. Like, not a lot of teams have that, in the NBA. I think, that's part of the Spurs culture that they try to kind of have that mix, which I like. But yeah, I think it depends. And I think, Spain in general, I think people in Europe are very well read in general. I think they understand history and they're pretty good. Like, they know more. Like, usually they can teach me something too, like something that I didn't know. So especially like in Spain, people are aware of like the influence because San Antonio, right? And
Yeah.
it was founded by the Spanish, the Canary Island families. Like when I went to the Canary Islands for part of my research, I focused on the sister city connection, right? So yes, I was in Darmstadt, but I spent some time in the Canary Islands and they were like so obsessed with San Antonio. They were like, oh my God, San Antonio. And they treated me so well. They have a whole plaza that's like called Plaza San Antonio or
Wow.
like a whole area that's about Texas. They have a bust of like Dr. Chiscano there, who was, a prominent figure locally with the Canary Islanders Descendants Association. So, I mean, like the Canary Islands, for example, they know all about San Antonio. And when you visit there, I was so surprised
So that's what you're saying.
how
You're saying
deep
if
the
you want
connection goes.
to feel like glorified celebrity status, go to the Canary Islands and go hang out with the
Yeah,
people
go
there.
to Las Palmas or Tenerife. Like in general, people are aware of the
That's
connection
awesome.
to San Antonio. And I mean, think about it, right? There's pride in like, oh, it was local Canary Island families that founded, the Ayuntamiento
Yeah.
in San Antonio. So, and then we had the royal visit for a Tricentennial. The King and Queen of Spain came. If San Antonio wasn't important, I don't think they would have come.
Yeah.
Or maybe,
I
who
swear
knows?
they
But
came
the
because of
historic
you, but
ties were there.
that's the stories. That's how I was
So
told to us
imagine.
in city council.
But yeah, I think it goes back to like the founding of San Antonio, the confluence of cultures. Uh, like we're a city of immigrants and change and coming and
Mhm.
going. And I think there's a lot to be proud of with that, just even looking at how it's evolved. So many people have called Texas home, there's been different flags, different countries
Got
represented.
Six Flags over Texas. I mean, that's a thing for a reason. And it's funny because you do,
Yeah.
and I lived in Castroville for like a hot minute, and like again another German town, right? Like San Antonio has been such a hub for a lot of people to start their lives here, and a lot of countries to come here. I mean, we have they become my best friends and I become an honorary member is the like Christopher Columbus Italian Society here in San Antonio,
Mhm.
right? There used to be a really big community near
Right.
downtown. And then we have the German community. We have obviously like our indigenous community. We have our Mexican community, our Spanish community. I mean, San Antonio is such a patchwork of beautiful stories of like of setting like making their landmark here. And I think that it's amazing, and you're a great testament of like being able to say like, hey, I got a taste of what it looks like when people come to San Antonio, and now you're going out and you're exploring as like a San Antonio, and working like, as you said, like starting with the sister city, like that alone, like breaking down what like you were at a sister city with like that Germany is a sister, like that you were with a sister program in Germany, like that is amazing. And I think that like people lose sight of like the influence at San Antonio and the relationships. Like again, I think that what the biggest topic of this today's podcast was relationships, right? And really honing that. And so San Antonio has such a beautiful history um of really rooting itself in relationships across the world, and how that has really impacted how we do business here, how we our perspectives on things, even like our like early development of San Antonio, and what that's looked like. So it's been again very cool to see you go out and explore,
Yep. Thank you.
I've
and taking
leveraged
that
it.
perspective.
Like, I'll be honest, like I was like, what is my angle? It depends. I definitely, because not a lot of people have this knowledge. I have this knowledge because I worked in the system relationships at the city. A common San Antonian, we have, I think, at this point, like 14, right? Combined sister cities, friendship cities. A lot of times, like a lot of local people that might not be so plugged into City Hall, local politics, they might not even have a clue of the official relationships that we have, right? So I'm privileged in that I have that knowledge, and I leveraged it to do research abroad. And I picked a sister city because I thought that would be an angle with San Antonio. And, I went to the Canary Islands on my own because I was curious, part of my research. But yeah, I mean, I leveraged it, right? But I think better stories can be told with our international ties. Because yes, local matters, and fixing potholes and, city budgets is super important. I get that. But we can't lose sight of the global engagement as well. Like, I think it's so important because
I don't think it should be an either or, right? I think we should like porque no los dos. Like, why can't we do both?
Exactly. And there's so many opportunities for exchange. We have so many art exchanges. We've had, works of art that have been commissioned that, are in our city that someone might not even know that an artist from our sister city designed it or installed it, right? Like all throughout our city, things that we already enjoy, and even educational exchanges between students. There's so many things that are happening that, hopefully that story can continue to be told in more creative ways so that more people can kind of leverage those ties in their own personal ways, or just be aware of it, and celebrate it a lot more because, we want to bring the world to San Antonio too. Like San Antonio should be known to be a global city. A lot of people think Houston, and I get it, all the consulates are there, but there's so much going on in San Antonio. We can't lose sight of that.
Agreed.
Global perspective.
All right, Rocío, to wrap this up, I want to ask the burning question as somebody who gets questions about their last name all the time. We got to know, you got to set the record straight here. Any relationship to the family of the Guenther Hotel?
Or the Guenther house, right? The pancakes.
Right, the Guenther, yes.
This is going to sound even crazier. I lived on Guenther Street for...
I know, yes, I remember.
7 years in King William. And I think I kept that ID card because I had to get a new driver's license, but I didn't want to throw the old one away.
No, you have to. That's super meta. Yes.
But that was just a coincidence. I found an apartment there, and it felt meant to be.
It is, yes.
On Guenther Street, living next to the river.
You were
and I was only a renter. I could never afford to live in King William in my house. But no, there's no relation. However, maybe there is. But my ancestors, it's so far back, we don't have a lot of information. But I think they come from the same region in Germany.
Interesting.
But we don't have a direct line.
I always say I'm related to Picasso unless somebody tells me otherwise. Like I'm like, yeah, sure, probably.
So I get that question a lot, but not an immediate connection that we know of. No,
that's funny.
But I got that question all the time.
I'm sure. I figured because I always get like, "Are you related to the artist?" I'm like, I don't. I married in, but sure, yeah.
And I lived on that street, so there's a lot of coincidences, right? That
is so cool. Yes.
The pancakes are so good. Highly recommend the Guenther House. It's such a nice place to have breakfast. Free marketing.
There you go. Wrap it up with a local business shout out.
Where's our sponsorships from the Guenther House?
Alrighty, to our listeners, thank you again for joining us for another episode of Two Texas Teas. Rocío, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to come and hang out with us and to share your perspective on what it is like to have San Antonio ties and knowing the international influence that San Antonio has. This has been a great conversation with you. And to our listeners, if you want to buy merch, you want to or have interest in being a guest on the show, or the best one, if you would like to be a sponsor for our podcast, please head to our website at www.twotexastees.com or follow us on social media. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 Sundays. Bye, guys.
Peace.
Boom.